Hi friends, it's Jess with Our Bipolar. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, just a little bit about me. I have bipolar 1 and I was diagnosed 26 years ago when I was a sophomore in college. Today I'm going to tell you a little story from my life. This actually happened back right after I was diagnosed. So yeah, this was 26 years ago. And I like to kind of tell some stories, sometimes because I know people out there have similar stories and they probably feel like they're alone in these experiences, and you're totally not. But before we get into the video, I will ask you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Also to like this video and comment, and if you would rather reach out to me directly, you can contact me on Instagram or Facebook and share this video. Share it with a friend who might need to see it. This is a story about my family doctor. So I had been diagnosed with bipolar. I had gone through this pretty massive mania episode and psychosis, my first psychosis. I'll link it right up here and down in the description. So then I was seeing my family doctor. I have no idea why. I was still like in the haze of the mania, and like I was put on, tranquilizers to bring me down from the mania. I didn't actually go into a hospital, although I absolutely should have. So I was put on these tranquilizers. I was sent home from college, and then I was put on Depakote, which for me also made me really hazy and just sort of out of it, sleepy, all those things. And, it turned out not to be a good medication for me, but it might be for you. So I'm just talking about my experience. So I went to see my family doctor. I'd been seeing him for a while. My whole family saw him. I think I told him that I was diagnosed with bipolar 1. And I also told him, or maybe he already knew, that I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And I had been studying psychology, like I was going to major in psychology, but I was also pre-med so that I could, go to med school, become a psychiatrist. But I think at that point I might have had to leave college. I can't remember exactly like in what sequence this happened, but I did leave school for the semester after I was diagnosed. But anyway, so he knows all this. He's like a younger doctor, younger guy, and he starts telling me this story, like with no prompting and no like, why are you telling me this? So he starts telling me this story when he was early in med school, that his neck felt like itchy. Just fair warning, my neck is going to get red if I touch it. That's just what happens. So his neck had felt itchy, and he started scratching it, and he developed this bump, and he's like, oh my God, I have like a bump on my neck. It's itchy, it's hurting, it's red. He thinks he has cancer, he says. So he just keeps like messing with it. It keeps getting worse. It keeps getting worse. I think eventually he went to a doctor because he thought, this is it. I have some sort of, I don't know, thyroid cancer. I don't know. Like I said, I was very out of it. But the whole point of the story was that there was absolutely nothing wrong with his neck. It was him. He was doing it to himself. He, maybe his neck was itchy in the beginning, but then he was making it worse by touching it. He developed the bump because he kept messing with his neck. And he told me this story, like the whole point was, it was veiled a bit, but I got the impression, or I, strongly got the impression that he was telling me this story because he did not think I had bipolar disorder. He thought that because I was studying psychology, that I had, as he did, like put this upon myself. And I guess he thought I was maybe not faking symptoms, but, you know, thinking they were more than they were. I mean, granted, I don't know if I had told him everything about my first manic episode with psychosis. I mean, like, I definitely wasn't making this up or even exaggerating it. I mean, I was embarrassed by how terrible and like out there all of this was. Like, obviously no one is going to think that they have x-ray vision. Like, that's not a thing you just like, oh, maybe I have that. It's not like when you're like, maybe I have ADHD, or like, you know, when you're like wondering about something. Like, this isn't like the normal thing where you wake up and go like, I think I can see things in my body, like I can see my skeleton and things like that. Like, yeah, so I don't know how much he knew, but frankly it didn't matter. What he did was unprofessional, uncalled for. It was embarrassing to me as the patient. I was a patient. I wasn't just someone in his life, like a friend or a colleague, like he could just say anything to. I was this young girl going through an extremely hard time. And like I said, I was still so kind of out of it that it didn't hit me how bad it was, but I knew I never wanted to see him in this capacity again. Like, I was no longer going to see him as a patient. He was not going to be my doctor. And what's kind of weird about it is, you know, I told my parents this story. I wanted to get a new PCP, you know, primary care physician. That's what we call it here in the US. And my dad actually helped me get a new PCP. It was someone he knew. My parents kept going to that family doctor. And he was a really good doctor outside of this whole situation, but I've always felt that was wrong. I'm just gonna say it. And they're probably gonna watch this and see, but I've said it to them before. You know, sometimes you have a history with a doctor and it really can be hard to change doctors, and I get all that. And the reason I'm telling you that my parents stayed with the doctor, because they've mentioned to me that almost every time they go in, I mean, this has been 26 years, almost every time they go for an appointment, he asks about me. And he wants to know how I'm doing. And he's always been, and I have, you know, 2 other siblings. It doesn't seem like he asks about them. So, you know, I hope in just cutting him out, no longer seeing him as a patient, that he learned something. You know, probably not, but I do think you have to stand up for yourself. Now, if this had been today, I would have actually said something during that appointment. I would have said, you know, I don't think that's what's happening in this case. I think that's unprofessional for you to make that comment or give me this analogy to something in your life where you had kind of basically made up something that was happening. But, you know, you live and learn. And I think a lot of us have these kind of stories where people, you know, there's a lot of stigma involved, or people make us feel bad about ourselves for having this illness, or people don't believe us. Like, he just did not believe it. And I think there was some kernel of, oh no, like, you couldn't have that. Like, you know, like almost like it was a compliment. Like, oh no, you don't have bipolar disorder. Like, you're probably just making this up. Like, go and live your life. Like, you're fine. But in any case, it was extremely unprofessional. So tell me if you have any stories like this. I'd love to hear them down in the comments. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.